Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning, everyone. So
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
We are about to start our conversation with the legendary Dr. Karan Singh. And we'll try to find out how he manages to be super fit at 91 and super productive. And so his introduction, if I start, his list of achievements, they will take too long. So I will mention just a few points. He was born in the royal family of Jammu and Kashmir. And now he's almost 91. And he has been in public life for more than 70 years now. And during which he has been a governor, he's been a cabinet minister. In fact, the youngest cabinet minister we had. And he's been a vice chancellor of many universities. He's been the ambassador to the US. He's held many cultural positions. He's been the chairman of Wildlife Board of India. And I find this interesting that he was responsible for making tiger as the national animal of India. Before that, it was lion. And then, of course, the Project Tiger followed. He's been a member of the Lok Sabha. He's been a member of the Rajya Sabha. He has been awarded the Padma Vibhushan, one of the highest civilian honors. And he's written more than a dozen books. And even more importantly, he is highly respected as a philosopher, as a scholar, and as an expert on Vedanta. In fact, my connect with him is through Vedanta. Like since I was in school, I wanted to learn the philosophical aspect of yoga, the Vedas. And my teacher told me, 30 years back that, Dr. Karan Singh in today's day and age is one of the biggest authorities on Vedanta. And I told him that I will learn from him only. And, the universe conspired, and I used to do portrait photography soon after college. And I was commissioned to take a portrait of Dr. Singh and ma'am on their 50th marriage anniversary. In fact, you can see that portrait right behind him in his study. That is the one I clicked more than 21 years back. And since then, I have been learning Vedanta from him, which is an amazing experience because he's not this preachy teacher. So we discuss things, we interact, and it's been an amazing learning process. What I find very interesting that he has interacted with great people of another era, like Mahatma Gandhi, Jawaharlal Nehru, Sardar Patel, and even more important for me, with the spiritual giants like S. Radhakrishnan, J. Krishnamurti, Swami Shivananda, Ramesh Balsekar, who's been one of my Vedanta teachers as well, and many more people. So I find through him a collective wisdom of all these people comes down to us, and we are all very lucky to be interacting with him today. Just one more thing I'll mention. A friend of mine who had invited for the talk today told me that, called me yesterday and said, you have to mention that, he's respected from people across ideologies. So, that is another thing that, he, there is immense respect for him from people across political parties, across age groups, across religions. And so, sir, I would like to start by asking you, you have more energy, you are super productive, fit, and enthusiastic about life, at 91. What is your secret?
That's a very difficult question to answer. Basically, Abhishek, my secret is divine grace. I'm Shiva Bhakta, Om Namah Shivaya, and that is a basic answer I'd like to give you. Because without divine grace, one would not be able to transverse all these decades. But if you were to ask something more concrete, if you like, I think what we do when we are young, and there's a very young audience in front of me, what we do when we are young will determine what you will be like when you become my age. For example, if you smoked a lot, you would have damaged your lungs. If you drunk a lot of alcohol, you would have damaged your liver. If you are overweight, your blood pressure will go wonky. If you indulge in unsafe sex, remember I am the pre-AIDS generation, then you're taking great risks. So none of these things I'm sure you do, but whatever you do when you're young will determine what you are when you're my age. One point I want to make. Secondly, I think if your life is balanced, if your diet is balanced, if your exercise is balanced, or whatever you do, if you do with a dedicated spirit and in moderation, I think that helps a lot. In any event, when you overdo things, whether you overdo them physically or emotionally or otherwise, then you get into trouble. So I have been, I think, very lucky because I did face a lot of problems. As you know, Abhishek, my daughter just made that film about me, and you can give these people the link for that film.
The Pilgrim Soul, it is
They can
called.
watch that film also. Because in that you'll get more details of what I have been through my life. So that is what I would say. Keep healthy now, keep well, and keep active, and keep positive, and then you'll make it.
So what we do when we are young determines what, if he'll be like how he is at 91. And so I would like to start with, there are many levels of fitness. And, since I teach holistic fitness and to a lot of you, and, so he embodies that holistic fitness, not just physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, all these levels. So we'll start with the physical level as to, you quote that Sharira Madhyam.
Sharira Madhyam Khalu Dharma Sadhanam. The body is the basis of all dharma. So, because if you're not well, if you're not healthy, then none of the other dharmas are going to work. Therefore, I think the first thing to do is to be healthy and realize that human life itself is a blessing. And therefore, we must nurture our bodies. The body is the temple of the soul. If we misuse our bodies, then we are doing a great deal of damage to ourselves.
So we'll start with the body and at the physical level. What are the healthy habits? Like in my book, I mentioned, healthy habits. And, sir, I'd like to ask you, what are the, in terms of exercise, diet, and what are some of the healthy habits that you follow?
They're all in your book in any case, you mentioned it. First of all, regulate your meals, have regular meals, not eccentric meals. एक दिन 10 बजे खाया, एक दिन 12 बजे खाया, एक दिन रात को. You must have a proper, as far as possible, regulate your timing. Time is very important because you say I'm 91, it's only a number, but it's time. And therefore, how you regulate your time. And let me tell you one thing, by the way. There's a wonderful saying by the mother of Aurobindo. You don't grow old. When you stop growing, you become old. So if you're growing all the time intellectually, if you're interested, if you're reading, if you're reacting and interacting with the human condition, then you remain vibrant and well. So regular meals, don't overeat. The besetting sin of the Indian Bhadra Loka is to eat too much food. Or if you're a Punjabi, particularly, chole parathe jare wo zyada nahi khane chahiye. You should only have in a modest way. And sweets, of course, are delicious by definition. Don't have too much of them. And try not to smoke. Smoking is an antisocial habit. You not only poison yourself, you poison the people around you. I don't see how any intelligent person, man or woman, can smoke. I think it's a ridiculous thing to do. Have a drink occasionally, no problem on that. So these are the general habits, I would say. I walk for about half an hour a day. Mind you, I've had a fused hip since I was 16 years old. So I can't do any running and things of that nature. But I used to play some tennis if I had a good doubles partner, and badminton and so on.
And you go for a swim these days.
I was swimming pool, yes, I go swim in the summer, and I walk half an hour. So some physical exercise is important. A sedentary life really is not desirable because your organs then tend to atrophy. It's bad for your heart. That's what I would say about and what you eat also. Try and keep red meats and very heavy food to a minimum, and try and eat lighter food. I think that's better for you. Now you talk about mental health. Now that is emotional. Let's go to the emotions first. Now emotions, Abhishek, are very difficult things. What is an emotion? They are negative emotions and they are positive emotions. Negative emotions, jealousy, envy, hate, rage, these are all anger. These are all negative emotions. They destroy the mind and the body. Whereas love, friendship, cooperation, helpfulness, these are positive emotions. So we go through emotional ups and downs in our lives. Wherever possible, I think we should try and develop the positive emotions rather than the negative emotions. It's easier said than done, I know, because when you're in a difficult position, but the way you can overcome the emotions really is with the sovereign power of love. Where there is love, that overcomes all. I'm not talking of possessive love. I'm not talking of obsessive love. I'm talking of real love. Wherever there is real love, that overcomes all these emotions and gives you an opening. In fact, it gives you an opening to the divine, because ultimately for the divine also, we have to develop love. So I would say that there are many positive and negative emotions. There's the overriding emotion of love, which is very important actually in life.
So a lot of some of his healthy habits he mentioned. Some more of them that I observe is like, he goes for a walk regularly, but also every morning he does an exercise routine without fail, and which is short and moderate intensity exercise, but it is done regularly. So and I feel in the healthy habits, he has an interesting mix of the Western and the Indian healthy habits. That's another thing I observed. For example, I've seen you eat fruits as dessert after food. And so what are the
Well, I don't know about Western and Eastern habits. I love fruit. I must have fruit after every meal, including dinner. There's this. कोई लोग कहते नहीं रात को नहीं खाना चाहिए. क्यों नहीं खाना चाहिए? Fruit is always wonderful. Have fruit whenever you can eat it. Never say no to fruit. It's my recipe. That may go against the sort of prescribed wisdom in India. They say you shouldn't eat fruit. But eat a lot of fruit and drink a lot of water. Keep yourself properly hydrated. That's an important thing also. Not only in the heat, but generally. The body must be kept hydrated.
And so the punctuality,
Yes.
being regular with exercise,
Regularity.
And once I'd asked him many years back, so what is your secret? I think that time he was, I think a decade back, and he said that, I think my secret is I eat very small meals. I don't eat a lot ever. So I thought that was something, I made a note of. And keeping weight in check, like, almost like all these 70 years, I think you've kept your...
My weight, yes, I weigh myself once a week. And I keep a measure, I keep a little book. I have to check my sugar also because I'm diabetic. And I weigh myself. If I put on weight, I get off my khana. If I put it off, I badhao my khana. I do a sort of a fine tuning on that.
but at the same time, he does enjoy his dark chocolates once in a while as well. So he's not obsessive about, so he keeps it super disciplined, but at the same time, it's not like you do enjoy
That's
good
why he
food.
knows my weakness, is black chocolate.
So, so,
But क्या करें, कभी-कभी खा लेते हैं.
so you keep a balance between moderation. It's not obsessively
No,
strict, your
no.
regime.
Not
And
strict.
and coming to the mental and emotional. Also, I would like to tell all of you towards the end of our conversation, you're welcome to ask questions. So keep your questions ready on any topic he's on. And
Abhishek, wait a minute. We finished the physical and the emotional. On mental, I'd like to say something.
please.
To keep yourself mentally fit, you got to, first of all, you got to read. Unfortunately, nobody reads any longer. My children hardly read, and grandchildren never look at a book. They're all reading from those machines. I can't read from a machine. I think it's absurd to read from a machine. I like the feel of a book in one's hand. And if you have a book, how can you read? I don't understand. But whatever, even if you read with a machine, for God's sake, read. Keep reading, because it's only by reading that your mind expands. And read everything. Read the Upanishads, read the Gita, read the Bible, read Plato, read Carl Sagan, a good friend of mine, read Radhakrishnan, whoever, Chetan Bhagat, whoever you like, follow, to keep your mind clear. What I do also, I always do those Scrabbles. Asian Age has a Scrabble. That's a word sort of a game. And I always do that every night. It keeps me active. I don't always get the answer, but I try and do it. Crossword puzzles sometimes, not very often. I play bridge whenever I can with human beings. And when I don't get human beings, I play with my computer. That's one thing I do with my computer, is to play bridge. Bridge is a great game, by the way. Chess, of course, is
chess also.
In its own league.
Do you play chess also on the computer?
Yes, I do play chess.
On the computer?
On the computer. More bridge. And so to play some intelligent game and read and think and travel if you can. Travel is a great educator. It widens your perception and stimulates your mind. So these are all the things that I think need to be done for the mind. Now, let me add one other thing. I learned that a lot of people are going into depression nowadays. That's become a major problem. Every day in the newspapers you read so many people are in depression. Some people even go then to the extent of committing suicide. Now, depression is a very dangerous thing once you get into a negative thinking process. So what you have to do to break out of that and try and get into something positive. Don't read negative things. Don't get involved in these negative sort of channels or whatever. There's so much violence around us nowadays. It's difficult to get a channel which you can see. But try and see something happy that gets you out of depression. And if you are depressed, then talk to somebody. Don't just keep it to yourself. Talk. Talk to your parents, talk to your friend, talk to your lover, talk to your doctor, or talk to yourself if you can't find anybody. But talk. Get it out of your mind. Once you talk, then you'll find that you'll get a little detachment from your depression. So depression, Abhishek, is something very, very dangerous nowadays. And I don't know these people, of course, I'm sure none of them are depressed, but they should, if ever depression hits you, be careful. Depression is a dangerous thing. Don't let it get you. Get out of depression as soon as you can.
So you said, one should talk, express, yes. And you even mentioned talk to yourself. So one thing I would like to ask you is so you spend a lot of time on yourself, by yourself. So, loneliness, being alone. So how do you manage that?
Well, I'm never alone. For one thing, Shiva is with me, Lord. The divine is with me. Secondly, I'm not really alone because there's so much to think about. I have my books with me. When you're reading a book, you're no longer alone. You're with the author. So how do unless I'm put into solitary confinement, then I may feel alone. Otherwise, I don't feel alone at all.
And so yeah, and you mentioned that you spend time with family, but at the same time it's not you, like you mentioned about emotional fitness, not being
No, I must say this. I'm lucky. I have a very nice family, by God's grace. My wife passed away about 12 years ago. We were married for 60 years. Can you imagine? I shouldn't say this, but we were married when I was 19 and she was 13. And she passed away in the 60th year of our marriage. But after she went, I have a very good family. 3 children, two sons and a daughter, 6 grandchildren. But I'm not dependent on them. I love their company. But it's not that without their company, I cannot continue. So if they're with me, good and well, bahut acha. If they're not there, they've got their own lives. I can't want another thing, Abhishek. Don't try and hold on to your children for too long. You're all young people, so your children are still young. But when they grow up, every child has got its own DNA, its own karma, if you like. Indian parents tend to be too possessive. They tend to try and run the lives of children. You can't do that. They've got to go their own way. Give them guidance, give them lots of love, but you've got to let them go. So that's my approach to my family. If they're with me, I'm delighted to have them. If they're not, I'm okay.
Because anyways, his days are really busy with other things. He's doing webinars, he's doing book launches every other day, he's reading a lot of books. Do you read one book at a time, or you read
two or three books
at
the
same time? And so he's constantly learning, and he's also, I've seen, up to date with everything. He follows the news, I think, too much. And also, you'll be amazed that he's he asked me like a few months back that have you watched this TV series Bandish Bandits? You must watch this. You must watch. Which was the other one you suggested?
The other one was Made in Heaven.
Made in Heaven. So so I watched them after he recommended those to me, and so he's like totally clued in. And there's some younger people here, who would. So he's asked me, and and I'm not. I'm still learning to be like that. So he asked me, so what is what does this word chilled out means? He heard it and he wants to know, like he wants to be clued into, like and not be left behind. So so that constant learning is something. So he his day is like really busy and full, and punctuality, like it's like clockwork. His day is like clockwork. His lunch is like exactly at that time, and so
I think punctuality is very important. It's a Western notion. You were talking of Western values.
Yeah.
In the West, being punctual is natural, but in India, if you turn up on time, everybody is surprised. Dekho ji, time se pahunch gaye. And what is this? When I first came here as minister, there was a function at a certain time written on the card. I went there. Neither was the audience there, nor were the organizers there. So I left my card and came back. अब मैं बदनाम हूँ कि करण सिंह को बुलाओ तो वक्त पे पहुंच जाते हैं. वो क्या करूँ? आदत हो गई है.
So now also mental, emotional, and coming to the spiritual realm, the examined life. And
in a way that you see, the physical is, we can see tangibly, the emotional we can feel, the mental we can it is in our minds. The spiritual is less tangible, but it's like a perfume. You can't see it, but you can appreciate it, and that spiritual growth revolves around having some kind of a spiritual goal. Now, some people are believers, some people are not believers. But I feel that if you do believe in some faith, I personally am a Vedantist and a Shiva Bhakta. If you do believe whatever you are, it can be Jesus Christ, it can be Prophet Muhammad, it can be Krishna, it can be the Devi, the goddess, anything. If you do believe, if you do have some contact, then you must develop that. Because that is the contact that is going to help you throughout life and into the next life, wherever it comes. So I think it's very important to do somewhat meditation, if you like, prayer, if you prefer. I prefer prayer to meditation. Abhishek is telling me constantly to meditate. I find it much easier to pray.
But you do weave in meditation and pranayam in your prayers.
Yes, to some extent I do. Then the other thing that you've got to do is, if must have a relationship with the divine. It shouldn't be a relationship of fear and fear. Kya karenge, wo karenge. It should be a relationship of love and trust and positivity. So this, I think, is tremendously important, because so many people skim through life without once looking deep within. Every religion tells us that the light that we seek ultimately is within us. The Christians call it the light that lighteth every man that comes into the world. The Sufis call it the Noor-e-Ilahi. The Sikhs call it the Ain Kokar. The Sufi, the seers of the Upanishad say, Vedaham etam purusham mahantam aditya varanam tamasa parasa. I have seen that great being shining like a sun beyond the dark. That light, that divine light, is ultimately within us. And I think that along with all the other things that we do in life, you have your career, you have your family, you have your responsibility, you have to also parallelly have a spiritual life going. You find that very, very helpful, particularly as you grow older.
And one remarkable thing I find, and you've mentioned it many times, that that whatever you do, you surrender it to the divine, and you do everything with that attitude.
That is one way of doing it. Yat yat karma karomi tat tat akhilam shambho tavara. Whatever I do, I surrender. Surrendering is also, if you are hanging on to your ego, I am so and so, I am this, I am that, then there's no space for the divine. You're so full of yourself. Where will the divine come in? You have to open this. You have to be receptive. तभी तो कुछ आएगा ना. हम कहा ही रहे, मैं ये हूँ, मैं वो हूँ, मैंने बड़ा पैसा बनाया है, मैं बड़ा काबिल हूँ, I've got a promotion, I'm a CEO, whatever. Fair, good for you. Also keep a little space for the divine. It will help you in the end.
That is one thing I've found, that I've seen other people calling him like really wise, and all his, but whenever he talks about himself, it's like always as a learner, as a student, as wanting to know more, rather than so that is something I find very significant. And sir, I want to ask you on behalf of the younger people here, and also all of you, you can keep your questions for later, and also you can put them in the chat box if you want. So you said having a connection to the divine and surrendering to the divine, having that attitude. A lot of youngsters, they don't relate to organized religion.
Mm-hmm.
So is it okay if they find their own religion?
Absolutely, absolutely. You see, organized religion is helpful if you find it helpful. Some younger people don't believe at all, that's fine. But nonetheless, I think they should still keep themselves open. As they said to the Star Wars people, may the force be with you. Whatever that force is, open yourself to that force. Whatever form you may like, it may be formless, but may the force be with you. The force is the divine force. It is with us if we let it be with us.
And we can be creative with our prayers also. Like you have written, and
I sing my own bhajans.
He's written the bhajans, he's composed them to music himself. So he does his own kind of prayer. And while on surrender, that poem that you wrote to Lord Shiva, that, you know, I'm your plaything.
Choice is yours.
The choice is yours, that, you know, and I feel he really lives his life in that way, that, you know, that poem is called, if you see his book, you know, it's
Hymn to Shiva.
Hymn to Shiva. It says, I'm your plaything, the choice is yours. So, you know, living in complete surrender to the divine, I feel that's one of the secrets of him being, never being anxious about anything. In fact, here I'd like you to mention, for example, you know, these things, and, you know, being connected to the divine, surrendering to the divine. For example, recently in the second wave, he's 91, he's diabetic, he got COVID. And, you know, but, you know, I think these are the things that, how did you manage?
Well, I don't know. My doctor says it is a miracle that I survived. But I think it was just a divine grace that I got through, because getting COVID at 90 has its, with a comorbidity, diabetes, is not a happy combination, but it came through. So that it proves perhaps that if you do have the link with the divine blessing, perhaps it will.
Because I did speak to you during that time when you were on
Yes.
recuperating, and I found you completely at ease, because I've spoken to another, as a yoga teacher, I was in connect, you know, a lot of people, we've all, you know, I didn't see any anxiety, any fear, you know, what will happen. You were like just calm and, you know, dealing with it.
Yeah.
And
The only way you can deal with a crisis is to be calm. If you lose your cool, then you are not going to be able to deal with the crisis problem.
so that's the other thing, you know, the connection with the divine and that surrender gives you that fearlessness. Because I've also seen you talk about death as a matter of fact. In fact, you were talking to Jyoti ma'am, your daughter, the other day, and, you know, telling her that, you know, when I die, just put my ashes in this place. And it was just, you were talking as if,
Yeah, well, you know, death, if you have to talk about death, is essentially all of us are destined to die. From the moment we are born, we are destined to die one day. So to look upon death as something terrible, horrible, and, you know, kya hoga, kya, it's no use, you know, because there's nothing you can do about it. गालिब का शेर है ना, मौत तो एक दिन मुयस्सर है, रात को नींद क्यों नहीं आती? There's no use worrying about it. If I am a Shiva Bhakt, मैं तो शिव जी को कहता हूँ, आप तैयार होंगे? अब जब आप कहेंगे तो मैं तैयार बैठा हूँ. I am not holding on. Whenever you are ready, I am ready. So it doesn't mean that you want to die. It doesn't mean that you wish to die. It does mean that you are not afraid to die. And you must be prepared to die. It's one of those things. And everybody, by the way, young people should do two things. They should have their insurance. I'm not sounding like an LIC agent, but you should definitely have your insurance of television ke liye kya kya aata hai. Get yourself lives insured properly. And then people who are 50 over should make their will. Don't put it off till too late. I keep revising my will every 10 years. So you make your will. These two bits of advice I would give to people. Both I think are important.
so death is the ultimate fear, but I'm sure for these small, lot of young people, we go through a lot of anxieties about a lot of other things. I'm sure that same would apply to all the other fears that we
Yes,
have.
yes. You know,
Small
fear,
and big.
everybody has fears, has anxieties. You know, I was in bed. I was in plaster of Paris for 18 months at the age of 16. I had to learn to walk again. I was in hospital in America for 10 months, in India for 6 months. So I went through this at the age of 16, 17. Everybody goes through difficulties. I haven't had any other of the problems, but this is a problem I've had. So one has to face it and live with it. And you know.
And in the film, The Pilgrim Soul, you said that, you know, during that period, you read a lot of things, you learned
Yes,
a lot of stuff. So, you know, when you're injured, like, you know, I'm a fan of Bruce Lee, and, you know, when he injured himself, you know, he, you know, sat and devised techniques. So, you know, even like a lot of us work out, and, you know, when we get injured, when you're, so there's still, you can grow in other areas
Indeed.
during that time. And from death and all, since you talk about mental and emotional fitness, there's one other thing I've noticed, more so of late, that, which, of course you play bridge and all that, and poetry, like he mentioned, talk to us about poetry.
You see, poetry and music, I want to talk about music. Both of these are the essence of life. Poetry, unfortunately, we have the tradition in India of Kavi Sammelans, but we don't recite enough poetry. Always remember, poetry is written to be heard. Prose is written to be read. Unless you hear poetry, it doesn't come alive. So it's very important that I remember a lot of poetry that I read. I love poetry. Urdu poetry, Hindi poetry, Sanskrit poetry, Dogri poetry, a lot. I did a 5-language poetry recitation in IIC once. And then music is absolutely essential. It's now become even scientifically proved that soothing music, even before birth, even before a child, you see, when a child is on the way, don't make any noise. Soothing music, even before birth, can help. And as you go through life, music helps. Because there's a new concept, Abhishek, I don't know if you've heard of it or not, called neuroplasticity. What it means is that the neurons of the brain are not static, they are plastic, and they can be modified. And so therefore, if you hear great music, your brain can improve, in fact. So I think music is essential. I love all music, whether it is Indian classical music, which I've been singing for 70 years, whether it is Indian folk music. My mother was from a village in Kangra, and I learned a lot of Dogri folk songs. And whether it is rock music, I've been a rock addict from Bill Haley and the Comets long before Elvis, coming all the way down to Dire Straits and Madonna and Mamma Mia and all. I love Billy Joel is one of my favorites. I got up to there. उसके बाद के बारे में मुझे नहीं पता, वहाँ तक पहुँचा हूँ मैं. And I love that music. Dire Straits is a very good band.
And he does his classical music riyaz regularly. And
so all types of music one should have. Again,
one should listen to or sing and learn as well.
हाँ, अच्छी music हो गई. आजकल उटपटांग म्यूजिक बड़ी हो रही है. तो ढंग की म्यूजिक तो कोई आती नहीं है. ना तो कोई लिखने वाले ढंग के हैं, ना कोई गाने वाले ढंग के. So after Mohammed Rafi, who are there? Mohammed Rafi, and there's Kishore Kumar, and there's Mukesh, and there's Lata, and there's Asha. उसके बाद कोई नाम ही नहीं याद आता. Because all those lovely songs, glorious songs, John, which we grew up all our life listening to Mohammed Rafi's voice, such a glorious voice he had. And Lata, what a combination. So you listen to whatever you like. I don't know to impose my like upon likes. I'm just saying, acha music, there's some music which is so discordant, it puts you off rather than, I think it is.
Right. So you're saying one should listen to music, because I remember many years back, as a Vedanta student, the kind of, are you doing your mala? Are you reading? Once he just called me, he said, are you listening to any music? I said, no, that is most important. You need to have music in your life. Vedanta can wait that. So you don't want, one should listen to music, or one should learn.
You don't have to learn. You should listen to music. If you can learn good and well, that's an additional thing. But everybody can listen to music. Can't sabhi ke hai na? You can listen, why not?
And the one other thing I wanted to mention to you all was and soon we'll open it to questions, so keep your questions ready. One other thing I found amazing is, especially of late, even when I watched this film, it starts with laughs, and I realized how much he laughs. The other day, he said a joke and he laughed so much at it, and I realized that that is, I think, another thing which kind
of course, if you can laugh, laughing is a blessing. If you can't laugh, that means you're in trouble.
So,
It's not good. You're not going in the right direction.
so like they say, laughter is the best
You have to
medicine.
be able to laugh, absolutely.
And
I think that's one of the few things we can do that animals can't do. Very few things. One of them is laugh.
in the way that humans can, yeah,
They can express joy, that's the thing.
yeah,
But to laugh is something different.
right, right. So, so since we before we end, so I'm sure a lot of things will come up in the questions. But since you mentioned poetry and the deep connect, also poetry helps you in the low times also to tide
Very
over
much so,
them
very much so.
as well. And since you mentioned at IIC, you said you recited some poems. I would like to request you to recite some.
If I start reciting a ghanta usi mein
I
chala
know, but just anything.
All right.
In you want to start with Urdu?
Urdu. Faiz Sahab आए थे हमारे घर तशरीफ लाए थे बेनी की, one of the greatest Urdu poets of the. He's got a very nice ghazal. तुम आए हो न शबे इंतजार गुजरी है, तलाश में है सहर बार बार गुजरी है, जड़ों में जितनी भी गुजरी बकार गुजरी है, अगरचे दिल पे खराबी हजार गुजरी है, वो बात सारे फसाने में जिसका जिक्र न था, वो बात उनको बहुत नागवार गुजरी है, और फिजा के हाथों गुलों पर न जाने क्या गुजरी, चमन से आज सबा बेकरार गुजरी है, न गुल खिले हैं न उनसे मिले न महकी है, अजीब रंग में अब के बाहर गुजरी. Isn't that a nice one?
That's amazing. And
So an English poem.
yes, please.
When you are old and grey and full of sleep and nodding by the fire, take down this book and slowly read, and dream of the soft look your eyes had once, and of their shadows deep. How many loved your moments of glad grace, and loved your beauty with love false or true, but one man loved the pilgrim soul in you, and loved the sorrows of your changing face, and bending down beside the glowing bars, murmured a little sadly how love fled, and paced upon the mountains overhead, and hid its face amid a crowd of stars. That's Yeats.
And you mentioned Pilgrim Soul in this. So recently, a documentary that his daughter has made on him. It's a brilliant documentary. It's on Hotstar, and it's called The Pilgrim Soul, and that is something. Yeah, and so while we are at English, you recite that of Francis Thompson. Some
No, he's thinking of that poem. Not where the reeling systems darken, and our benumbed conceiving swords, the drift of pinions would we hearken, beats at our own clay shuttered doors. The angels keep their ancient places, turn but a stone and start a wing. Tis ye, tis your stranger faces that miss the many splendors. That many splendored light, Bhaushobhamanam, that is something that we miss, unfortunately.
and I think there are a lot of young people here who relate a bit more to, say, a Robert Frost. Can you recite that? The very popular one of Robert Frost, the Two Roads.
Okay. Two roads diverged in a yellow wood, and sorry I could not travel both and be one traveler. Long I stood and looked down one as far as I could to where it bent in the undergrowth, then took the other as just as fair and having perhaps the better claim because it was grassy and wanted wear. Though as for that, the passing there had worn them really about the same. And both that morning equally lay. In leaves, no step had trodden black. For I kept the one for another day. Yet knowing how way leads on to way, I doubted if I should ever come back. I shall be telling this with a sigh. Somewhere ages and ages hence, two roads diverged in a wood, and I took the one less traveled by, and that has made all the difference.
And
You don't get
yeah,
it.
I know. If I keep saying, I'll just need to name the poet, and he can go on. But yeah, we want to keep time for questions. But before that, though he can recite in many other languages, Dogri is his main mother tongue. So, but at least Sanskrit we will touch upon because he's has amazing command over Sanskrit. So, sir, Sanskrit, something, whatever you want to decide for us. Vedam.
Mano buddhi ahankara chittani naham na cha shrota jimhe na cha ghyana netre na cha vyom bhuver na tejo na vayu chidananda rupa shivoham shivoham na cha prana sangyo na vai pancha vayo na va dhapta dhatu na va pancha kosham na va pani padam na chopasta payu chidananda rupa shivoham shivoham na me dvesha ragho na me lobha moho modo neva me neva matsarya bhava na dharmo na chartho na kamo na moksha chidananda rupa shivoham shivoham na punyam na papam na saukhyam na dukkham na mantro na vedam na yajnana tadya aham bhojanam neva bhojyam na bhukta chidananda rupa shivoham shivoham na me mrityu shankar na me jati bheda pita neva me neva mata cha janma na bandhur na mitran guru neva shishya चिदानंद रूप शिवोहम शिवोहम अहम निर्विकल्पो निराकार रूपो विभुत्वाच सर्वत्र सर्वेन्द्रियाणां न च सांगतम विक्तिर्नमेया चिदानंद रूप शिवोहम. This is Shankaracharya's ultimate
Adi Shankaracharya.
ultimate Advaita. अब चलो
And
आगे question
okay, just one last. Was that
What's
Mundaka Upanishad, the one with the bow and the arrow? That the and
धनुर्गहितौषधितं महास्तं क्षरं विपाशानिशितं सन्दगीत अयं यद् भावगतेन चेतसा दक्षं तदेवाक्षरं सौमिपिति प्रणवो धनु शरो ह्यात्मा ब्रह्म तत्लक्ष्यमुच्यते अप्रमत्तेन वेदव्यं शर्वत्तन्मयो.
the meaning of this one.
Meaning is that using the Upanishads, the wisdom of the Upanishads as the bow and taking that as a great bow and the Atman as the arrow, and you have to shoot yourself into the divine and become one with the target in the same way as arrow.
That's the spiritual goal. Realize the spiritual goal. And okay, now okay, if you want to ask questions, you can raise your hands. You have a thing there to just raise your hand, and you can ask your question. And also, if you want to just say something, you can. VG, why don't you go ahead? Unmute yourself and you can ask your question.
Thank you, Abhishek. Dr. Saab, namaskar.
Namaskar.
This is such a privilege. This is such an honor. I know everybody is feeling this great sense of gratitude that we are able to see you and listen to you. Sir, Abhishek, I don't have a question. I just wanted to express this joy. Dr. Saab, my mother completed 94 yesterday. And my husband and I are in Delhi. We were with her to wish her on her 94th birthday. Some of the wonderful, wonderful pearls of wisdom that you have shared with us. She also says a lot of those things. So many beautiful thoughts you have shared resonate so powerfully. I just want to take 1 minute and I want to say that Abhishek has promised that one time he will bring me to meet you. Dr. Saab, about 52 years ago, when I was a student in the Mother's School of Sri Aurobindo Ashram, you have given me a prize for recitation. This was an event held at the Ramakrishna Mission here. I just want to come and see you once again. Thank you. Thank you for being with us today. And Abhishek, thank you for bringing Dr. Karan Singh to us. Thank you so much. Thank you.
It will be a pleasure to meet you again.
Shruti, VG, you can mute yourself.
Thank you, Abhishek. And thank you, sir, for these tremendously enlightening thoughts. If I may ask, since you've lived through the best and the worst times of India's nationhood, and in fact, you've been a bridge between the monarchic and the feudal and the democratic times of India. So today we are living in unprecedented polarized times in post-independence India. and there is a sense of powerlessness all across, both at personal and at collective levels. How do we restore our sense of power, both within us, and how do we contribute to the larger, how do we tide over?
The polarization that you mentioned is indeed very unfortunate. A lot of it revolves around religion. And therefore, I'm involved in what is known as the interfaith movement,
Yes.
where we try and bring people of different religious communities together in a harmonious dialogue. That is something that must continue, because we cannot have this sort of polarization. We've already had one partition of the country, and all the Tabahi and Barbadi. That was one of the most terrible events in our history. We celebrate our independence, which is all very fine. But what about the 20 lakh people who lost their lives and the 1 crore people who to ghar ke beghar hue? So we cannot afford a polarization. And that will be, as long as we have this polarized situation between religions, we will never really develop to our full extent. So I agree with you, we must overcome that polarization. We must first go through the interfaith movement. You could learn more about that if you look it up in Google. As far as the empowerment is concerned, the Constitution empowers us. Every individual has got his human rights. It's an extraordinary constitution, unique in the world. Every single individual, every Indian citizen has rights. So fight for your rights through your organization, through your political party. Don't give up. You demand your right. Don't be violent, but demand your rights. And if you have any problem, go to the courts. They've gone, for example, they've done marvelous that privacy judgment, shooting down that obnoxious Article 377. That was a great step forward. I mean, lakhs of people were being distorted and as it were punished for their sexual preferences, and that's ridiculous. So we've got rid of that. That was a Victorian thing. Thank goodness we got rid of that. And if you remember, the court said that the community owes an apology to the LGBTQ1 communities people. So you have your rights. Don't be afraid. You have your civic rights. If your road is cut up, if your trees are being cut, go to the court. Make a show, but do it peacefully.
Yeah, incidentally, Shruti, who's asked the question, she's a lawyer and she's been a part of many such
Okay, good, Shruti. Yeah.
great movements.
Thank
My
you so
grandson has
much,
become a
sir.
lawyer
Thank
now.
Thank you so much, and that really gives hope. And I'm glad you resonate, because human rights has become almost a dirty word in today's discourse. Yeah, I mean, we are now not using these words in public discourse. Human rights people are seen as troublemakers. So I feel so hopeful on hearing that your advice to not give up on human rights, and the fact that we need to stay peaceful and non-violent both. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Rahul, Shruti, you can, Rahul.
Yeah. Good afternoon, sir, and it's really been an honor, sir, to listen to you. Thanks for the wonderful talk, sir. You covered all aspects: physical, aapne cover kiya, spiritual, emotional, all of that, and the importance of a balanced life. So thank you very much, sir, for that talk. I really enjoyed it. Sir, I had a question in my mind, and leading from what Shruti talked about, I have this sense, sir, that somehow, and as you correctly pointed out, India seems to be becoming a divided country, divided on lines of religion. Plus, there are various other divisions, whether it is caste, even state, one state versus. So there is a whole lot of problem in my little limited understanding. The human beings have a problem, with each other. For somehow, unko apna hi clan ya apna hi wo acha lagta hai, baki sab theek nahi lagta. So that's a big problem, and I really appreciate what you said. Take it up and fight it out and take it to the courts, whatever it is. My concern, sir, bigger one is human beings seem to be totally disrespecting nature. Whether it is plants or animals, there is complete disrespect for that, and पेड़ वेड़ काटे जा रहे हैं and all of that stuff. We keep hearing that. उन लोगों के लिए कोई बोलने वाला नहीं है, sir. When there is a problem between various religions, I'm sure there are people from either side, and hopefully someday some solution will be found. But for the ones that can't speak, we are kind of abusing nature. So I just wanted your
Absolutely.
thoughts, sir.
So you see, it's interesting. I was at the birth of the environmental movement in Stockholm in 1982.
Right.
The first United Nations conference on the human environment was held. And I was there. I was on the Indian delegation. So I've been in the environmental movement right from the beginning all the way to Glasgow. So I've been following this. We have behaved in a very atrocious manner to nature. And as I said yesterday at the speech, Mother Nature is very kind. But if we get out of it, she thappad bhi lagati hai. And I think this COVID is a sort of collective thappad to the human race. You cannot carry on with this unsustainable lifestyle, all these wet markets and eating these strange birds, and whatever. You can't do that. We've got to change what we do. Our attitude towards nature is of the essence. I was chairman of the Indian Board for Wildlife. And in that capacity, when I went, the first meeting was formal. Second meeting, maine dekha, the national animal is the lion. You don't know that. That means from 1947 to 1982, not 82, sorry, 72, not 82, 72. I was in her cabinet. She asked me to chair the Indian Board for Wildlife. When they said lion, because of the Ashoka Sthambh, this is ridiculous. Lions are found only one. Tiger is there. So in that meeting, we passed a resolution urging the government of India to change the national animal from the lion to the tiger. I sent it to Mrs. Gandhi. She put it through cabinet where I was also there, and we got it through. So I am the person responsible for the tiger being the national animal. All these people are doing these programs. NDTV did a huge, mera naam hi nahi liya. Kya karte ho? You must at least acknowledge the fact. Also, when I started Project Tiger, I was chaired the steering committee, and I formally inaugurated Project Tiger in the Corbett National Park on 13th April, Baisakhi Day, 1972. उसका नाम कोई नहीं लेता है और आगे चलते हैं तो I am very, very close to the environment. I agree with you. What we've done to nature, if we continue to do it, we'll continue to get slapped.
So you're saying that nature will itself
It's already doing
get
it.
back at human
It's
beings for
already
that.
doing that. Look at the climate change. Look at the hurricanes. Look at the floods. Look at the fires. Look at the volcanoes. Everything. The world is going berserk. Physically.
Thank you, sir.
So, anyone else wants to ask a question? You can, David Singh ji, please go ahead, unmute yourself. You need to unmute yourself. Just press, there'll be a mic, just press on that.
Can
Yeah.
you hear me now?
Yes, yes.
Kamagani, Your Highness, it was a great pleasure to have you in Sirohi and spend time with you in 1981 and 1996. Sirohi and Abu, when Your Highness came at the invitation of my brother. Now, Your Highness, I have read many of your books. It's been a great pleasure. And I would like to ask you one question. How would you define a Hindu?
How do you define a Hindu?
A Hindu. Because I'm asking you this question, especially in context with a book I read recently. And they said that you can be a Hindu, you can worship idols, you can do this, do that. But one commonality is that you follow the caste system, which I found a little uncomfortable. So I would like Your Highness to...
Well, let me tell you, Hinduism is a very flexible religion. It is true that it is the only religion which gives you a choice which deity you want to worship. There are several male deities, there's the devis you can worship. And you can go to the temple, you need not go to a temple every day. It depends on you. It's a very, very relaxed religion. But the caste system is one of the curses of Hinduism.
Yes.
It is not one of the essential features. It is an essential feature, I'm afraid, but it is one of the curses.
Okay.
Because on the one hand, Vedanta says Ishvara Sarva Bhutanam Hrideshe Tishtati. The Lord resides in the heart of all beings. On the other hand, we discriminate against people because of their birth. I mean, it is totally against Vedanta. So all the great social reformers in the Hindu reform movement, from the beginning, Raja Ram Mohan Roy, if you remember, in Bengal, started the Brahma Samaj. Keshav Chandra Sen started the Adi Brahma Samaj. The Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar started the widow remarriage. In Bhandarkar and Ranade in Maharashtra, Arya Samaj in the north, all these people have spoken. And Swami Vivekananda, who was par excellence the spokesman of Vedanta and Hinduism in the West, he was also strongly against the caste system. So I think the caste system is, yes, I agree, it has become an essential feature of Hinduism, but it is an unfortunate feature of Hinduism. Must not let it overwhelm us. That's what I would say.
So how would you
And-
define it in short, Your Highness?
Sorry?
Be a Hindu. How would you define a Hindu?
Being a Hindu.
Well, it's a well-established faith, you know, like we have all the other faiths being Hindu. You have certain basic concepts of multiple paths to the divine, Ekam Sat Prabhavada Vadanti. The concepts of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, the world is a family, and you follow some Hindu practices, and you know your marriages, your various religious functions connected with Hinduism, and you do not belong to any of the other religions. So you don't belong to one of the Semitic religions or any other religion, and so therefore you are a Hindu, you're born a Hindu.
And you mentioned in your film about, you know, the Upanishads being the basis of the way you
They are
forget.
the base. They are the real texts of Hinduism, I must tell you, are the Upanishads. Even the Gita is a derivative text. It's a great text, the Gita. I will speak on it extensively. But the Upanishads really are the greatest text. They are Shruti. They are the direct revelation from the divine. Whereas the others are Smriti, something that is remembered. So there's lots and lots of this. It's such a wealth in Hinduism. It's a cornucopia of all sorts of riches.
In fact, today we focused on health, but there are so many other topics, you know, Dr. Saab has written extensively on Hinduism, on the Upanishads. Also, we can have, you know, talks with him on many different topics.
Meri kitab pad lo, essays on
It's
Hinduism.
called Essays on Hinduism, yeah.
Yes,
And
I've
which
read
is-
that. And the book written by His Highness, the Mundaka Upanishad, I read over and over again. Thank
That's a beautiful text.
Yes, yeah.
Come on. Right.
And in the spirit of the
I
Upanishads,
remember my visits to Siroi.
Look,
in
Surya and
the
Mount
spirit
Abu
of the
as well.
Upanishads, I have observed that, you know, that questioning attitude, that, you know, everything can be questioned. And I found you, though you follow the religion and, you know, especially the Vedanta, the philosophical aspect of it, but you are also very open. And I've never seen him very closed with ideas that this is how it is. I remember someone had asked you about the question of rebirth. And your answer, I don't know if you remember, was very interesting. You
Yeah.
said it is to my mind the best working hypothesis, and which I find very amazing, that, you know, that it's not like this is how it is because it's, you know
It's a
you're
working
open.
hypo- How do you otherwise explain
Yeah.
all that's happening in the world?
Yeah.
But you see, I'm come from a Muslim majority state. So I've been interacting with Muslims, I've been visiting Muslim shrines, Makhdoom Sahib and Baba Rishi and Chirare Sharif and Hazrat. I went to a convent school. So that's where I interacted with these. Our family owes its rise to the Sikhs. So for us, Darbar Sahib is as holy as our own. So, you know, this interface is built into my life. And I think all of us may not have all these experiences. We must remain open. Try and understand the other's religion, although we may not sort of.
A lot of young people, like I said, are, you know, some of them are atheists, and then there is, you know, you mentioned the other day about agnostic. So do you think it's better to be agnostic than atheist?
I think so. An agnostic is somebody who doesn't know.
One more.
Agnostic prayer is oh God, if there is a God, save my soul if I have a soul. So the point really is, agnostic is not sure. But an atheist is sure, no, there's no God, there's no God. Atheist is also fanatic as the fundamental.
Can be, yeah.
Well, one more thing I would like to mention, sir, is would you say, Okam, that Sanatan Dharma, or Hinduism, is probably the most democratic and the most secular of all the religions in the world?
I think it definitely it is very open. It is very open. As I said, it's the only religion that respects, that accepts multiple paths to the divine.
What is the verse that?
Ekam Sat Vipraha Bahuna Bhavanti. The truth is one, the wise call it by many names. You see, most religions say, no, this is the only way you must go. We don't say that. I would say, look, if you're a good Christian, go the Christian way. Be a good Christian. If you're a Muslim. But Hinduism is the only religion which accepts multiple paths on the path. बाकी सब कहते हैं कि नहीं हमारा ही रास्ता ठीक है बाकी सब अपना ठीक हो सकता आप ये कह सकते हैं कि हमारा ठीक है पर ये नहीं आप कह सकते कि आप गलत हैं. That is the difference.
So if anyone has another quick short question, you can unmute yourself and ask. Otherwise, David Singh ji, you can unmute yourself. Just press the mic again. No, that's and yeah.
Abhishek, I have a quick question.
Just make it a quick question now
Very
because we
quick.
are going a little over time.
My question is, particularly with the young people who are not very religious, as we would call, what is the way we can get around to get them closer to being religious?
Well, I think a value system, to be polite, to be punctual, to look after the parents and to be loving. And, you know, if you have positive value systems, then you can bring in religion without it becoming too oppressive. घर पे जो है ceremonies होती हैं, functions होते हैं, मंदिरों में जाना, gradually introduce them to religion. They don't have to necessarily study it as a subject, but the family is going to try and bring them into some kind of.
Thank you.
Okay, so I think we will, you know, someone wants to ask anything, just you can unmute yourself and ask if you want to have a quick question. Otherwise, we will just conclude. So, you know, I feel, you know, there's a lot of subjects we can talk extensively to Dr. Karan Singh, be it poetry, Hinduism, Vedanta, environment, interfaith, and maybe in future we can do that. And but for now, since we started with health and being, you know, being fit and productive and sharp at 91, you know, that has been our focus. So I feel, you know, the one thing, of course, he's leads a very disciplined lifestyle, and, you know, like he mentioned, so you should, without self-deprivation, like, you know, being moderate, not being obsessive about something, but following a disciplined lifestyle. That is one. I personally feel, you know, since I teach yoga, the nervous system, the mind, I think that's where he works a lot, like, you know, on keeping your mind calm. Like how I tell people, you know, don't just walk once a day and then sit around the whole day. You should keep walking through the day. In his case, even calming the mind, he keeps doing that through the day, through different activities. You know, his prayer is spread through the day, and his practice of music, reading books, so many of the things he's doing are calming to the mind through the day. And, you know, before, you know, when you wake up, you know, doing some yoga meditation before you sleep, centering the mind again. So that is something. And learning new things, I think that is the other, the mental, learning new thing, growing, being open, you know, being updated about everything. And that is the other. And also that allows him, I've seen him not looking back too much, like, you know, not talking about the past, always looking into the future and living in the moment. And I think that is one really, you know, I don't know whether one can do something to achieve that, or you have to do all of that.
I don't know.
Be there.
But never look back either in anger or in regret. Just look to the present and to the future. You can't change the past, but you can change the present and the future if you change yourself.
And the other thing I find is the attitude of, he's read, all the books he's read, his personal books, he's made a library in his Jammu museum. And how many books?
25,000.
So so more than 25,000 books, just his personal collection. And there are much more you've collected again. But even after reading so much and all that, he always has an attitude of, I don't know, he's not like, I know it all. The attitude is still, I want to learn and I'm still learning. So I think that is something also which keeps the mind. And lastly, enjoying life, like he does enjoy his food and going out and things in life, yet being detached, like the Ishavasya Upanishad that I've learned from him, I've studied with him. The verse says, Ishavasyam idam sarvam yat kincha jagatyam jagat, that the divinity resides in everything. Tena tyaktena bhunjitha, that, be detached and then enjoy life. And I feel he embodies that, lives that, what he teaches. So once again, I would like to really thank Dr. Karan Singh for taking out this time and interacting with you all.
It's a pleasure meeting all of you.
And I hope we have many more, we'll be having many more such
Keep
talks.
well and may the force be with you.
Okay, 1 second. Do you want to ask something, madam?
Namaskar.
Your- you can.
जय जय महाराज
Yes.
जय कौन बोला रहे हो?
मैं रानी बलोरिया
अच्छा तुम good.
हाँ जी
क्या
हाँ
है
जी
थोड़ा राजी खुशी?
all are very proud of you, very proud, and we miss you.
Thank you.
महाराज,
कुत्थे हो तुम? जम्मू से दिल्ली हो?
मैं जम्मू हाँ क्योंकि मेरा
अच्छा।
कोई ऑपरेशन हुआ है तो
अच्छा।
I'll be okay within 2 months.
चलो
हाँ
ठीक है,
ते
get well
आप
soon.
आगे ते मैं मिलने आ
जरूर आयो मिलने, जरूर मिलेंगे. So
जय
nice to
महाराज।
see you again, Rani.
हाँ जी
जय।
जय जय महाराज जय जय
Okay, thank you everyone for joining in. Have a great day. Thank you, sir, again.
Thank you.
Thank you.